Hello and welcome to Ocean News. My name is Rory and I am live from London studio. We bring you the latest developments from around the globe alongside in-depth coverage of the stories. Let's dive right into the headlines. The United States imposed sanctions on 18 entities and individuals to target what the Treasury Department called a network helping Iran evade sanctions and generate revenue. According to a Treasury Department, the US targets include Runk Exchange System Company and its leadership, Cyrus Offshore Bank, and Iranian software holding company Pasargad Arian Information and Communication Technology. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Treasury will continue to disrupt Iran's schemes aimed at evading our sanctions, block its access to revenue, and starve its weapon programs of capital in order to protect the American people. China accused the Philippines of playing with fire after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the Southeast Asian nation would be drawn into any conflict between China and the United States over Taiwan. It was responding to remarks by Macron during a state visit to India that the Philippines' closeness to Taiwan and the large Filipino community there would make involvement necessary in such a conflict. China's foreign ministry said geographical proximity and large overseas populations are not excuses for a country to interfere in the internal affairs of others. Marcos' remarks came amid heightened tension between Beijing and Manila over territorial disputes in the busy waterway of the South China Sea. The US government promised to amend a presidential executive order to remove overlapping tariffs on Japanese goods, Tokyo's trade negotiator said, after talks in Washington to fix what he called a regrettable oversight. In those discussions, Ryosei Akazawa urged US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to ensure that a 15% levy agreed last month on Japanese imports was not stacked on goods such as beef that are subject to higher tariffs. Israel's political secretary cabinet approved a plan to take control of Gaza City as the country expanded its military operations despite intensifying criticism at home and abroad over the devastating almost two-year-old war. The IDF will prepare to take control of Gaza City while providing humanitarian aid to the civilian population outside the combat zones. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said in a statement referring to the Israel Defense Forces. Australia has urged Israel not to go down this path after Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel intended to take military control of Gaza. Foreign Minister Penny Wong said Australia calls on Israel to not go down this path, which will only worsen the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Wong said permanent forced displacement was a violation of international law and repeated calls for a ceasefire, aid to flow unimpeded, and for militant group Hamas to return the hostages taken in October 2023. The United States has doubled its reward for information leading to the arrest of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to $50 million over allegations of drug trafficking and links to criminal groups, US Attorney General Pam Bondi announced. Bondi accused Maduro of collaborating with prominent criminal groups such as Tren de Aragua and the Sinaloa cartel. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil said the announcement was the most ridiculous smokescreen ever seen. The Dutch government ruled out recognising a Palestinian state for now, despite growing public concern over Gaza, but said Israel's actions in the war-ravaged territory were eroding its own security. The Netherlands' stance is in contrast to that of some NATO allies, most notably France, which has said it will recognise Palestine's statehood in September. Britain has said it will also do so unless Israel takes steps to relieve suffering in Gaza, where starvation is spreading, and agrees a ceasefire. US Attorney's Office for Maryland said the founder of a neo-Nazi group was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, followed by a lifetime of supervised release for plotting to sabotage Baltimore's power grid. Brandon Russell, 30, of Orlando, Florida, was found guilty at trial earlier this year of conspiring to damage or destroy an energy facility. Senior US District Judge James Bridar in Baltimore handed Russell the maximum sentence for that offence. France's biggest wildfire in decades will continue burning for several more days, authorities warned, even though the flames have been brought under control. The massive blaze in the southern department of Aude has scorched more than 17,000 hectares, an area larger than Paris, killing one person, injuring 13, and destroying dozens of homes. About 2,000 firefighters remain on duty around the fire zone, which was declared under control on Thursday night. But the fire won't be declared extinguished for several days. Authorities have banned access to the affected forests until at least Sunday, saying roads in the area are too dangerous due to downed power lines and other hazards. Those were the headlines. Stay with us as we delve into each story in greater detail after a brief pause.